Alrighty, how's it going? Jonathan here with Boston Collectors, and in today's video, Shin Hati. She worth the price. $280. Oof. Well, we got a lot to discuss, so let's get to it. First things first, she's expected to ship between January and June of 2025, the same window as Balin's Skull, which is good to see. We have the flexible payment options set for 5, and it looks like the 10th of the month was pre-selected for me. I don't know why they do that. I always select 5th. All of them should be that way, and they're not, so double check that in the event that you did not. The NRD is set for $28, and don't forget to apply that payment plan before checking out. So as we move on to what's included in the box, we have a body with over 28 points of articulation, which is interesting because Reva had 30. So I'm hoping that I mean, come on. She's not a Jedi, but she is a Force user. She was pretty agile, so I'm hoping that she come with a respectable amount of articulation at the very least. 1 pair of lightsaber holding hands, 1 pair of fists. That's good. I did not actually see that in the end card. Future Jonathan here. Fists aren't actually included with Shin, unfortunately. My guess is they chose to copy and paste the text from Balin's Skull and provide the same amount of hands to Shin, and that just copy paste, man. Got us. Best thing we can do is hope that they provide fists later, but I'm not hopeful. And 3 gesturing hands. That's pretty solid. I could not tell if those were fists though. 1 pair of fists. It's good to see. Moving down, we have the cloak embedded with bendable wire. That's a plus. Nothing here about pleather or leather, which is unfortunate. We have the standard weapon selection, the accessories being the probe joint with the stand, and we also have a hollow projector. The rest is relatively standard. We have the base, which is, you all know how this goes, right? And then for the vendor ID, we have TMS 124. So she's just before Balin's Skull, which is interesting because he was dropped first at TMS 125, and then she was dropped second at TMS 124. So as you all know, these photos kind of stink. You can't zoom in. Look, I can barely even select them. We're going to jump on over to Facebook. So here we have Shin Hati. Wow, man, that cloak is looking like almost similar to Dooku's quality or a Jedi cloak. That's good to see. The texture difference there in the hood, really nice separation of textures. So it seems as if they went ahead and add more of a plastic appearance to the seam there, but they do appear as soft goods at the same time due to the wrinkling there. I mean, that would make her a lot more posable though in the long run. So right away for me, when I saw this card, the portrait stuck out. It stuck out a bit. It's not quite there. It looks good, but it's not quite there in my opinion. It looks solid though, but it could definitely use a bit of work. For me, I'm giving it a firm 7 out of 10. Could use a bit of work, and we'll discuss that in a moment. But for the intro card though, this looks incredible. Absolutely love the weathering found throughout her armor. Similar to Balin's, where his was oxidized, she's just got a bunch of soot and dirt and grime found throughout the entire design of her armor. She's seen some stuff. The stitching appears similar to what we saw with Bo-Katan and Casca, and I'm not seeing a bodysuit on her. You can tell based on how skinny she is, which she was rather small in the show, so I'm not upset at that. There's also a bit of weathering found on her tunic, which looks good. Portrait design again, we've got the Padawan braid. I mean, this is looking really, really good. So here we have a darker photo showcasing Shin Hati. I do have a photo that I want to share with you all in a moment to see what you all think about the comparison. Super quick, I do notice a double bend here in the elbow simply because of how this part of the elbow is protruding. There's a bit of a blocky nature to the arm, so that's good to see. But again, I could be wrong, but that looks like a double bend to me. Let's just hope it is at least. Let me know what you all think. Now the portrait. We have the separate rolling eyes, right? Phenomenal. I'm super excited to see that they're continuing with that being the norm. I'm not upset with her freckles not being as prominent. That's not a big issue for me. They're there. That's all that matters. It's supposed to replicate the likeness of Shin Hati. My thing is the portrait design. Her nose is sort of angled up a bit more. She's got a bit more of a stronger jawline off to the left and right side of her face, and she doesn't quite have that. The hair quality looks great. There's a lot of volume and separation to the hair, which looks good. The Padawan braid, but it's that portrait design. So super quick, I want to show you all a comparison photo. So here we have the Hot Toy steel and we have the Ahsoka steel. Now, as you can see, her freckles are far more prominent here on her actual face versus the prototype. Again, it's not a big deal, but that should be corrected. But there's a bit of a difference that it's just, again, I feel like it's the jawline for the most part. And I feel like her eyes should be set back just a bit, unless of course that's the makeup playing tricks on me. She does have a bit more of a square here to her bangs versus what we have here is more of a sweaty, sharper look to her bangs. But the portrait design could use a little bit of work. Now with this in mind though, let me know what you all think down below. Does this matter to you? What are you noticing that you feel could be worked on a bit? Obviously there is a bit of a difference in terms of the hood placement. You're not going to quite nail the exact look from the show for the figure. It's a given. The hair isn't going to move. That's totally fine. We're not going to have rooted hair, but that doesn't negate the fact that the portrait design could use a little bit of work. But it's a great starting point though, nevertheless. And here we have both Shin and Baylan. Now we get a closer look at the costume design, and the first thing that drew my attention were her boots. Now these definitely look sculpted in, not only the armor, but the supposed cloth material, and I'll showcase this a bit more. This for sure looks sculpted. And to point out Baylan's, you can see a bit more of that sort of hindrance there in the ankle that I mentioned in his video. If you didn't watch it, you'll definitely see that I bring that up later on. So as we move up, I love that ragged look to their outfit. Hers look a lot worse, which I'm actually okay with. A lot more wear and tear. I would like to know though if there's wiring found throughout the clothing. That would just make it that much better, in my opinion. Now Shin was a smaller character, right? She didn't really fill out her tunic, and I like that they stuck with that, not throwing in the extra padding, not giving her more of a bust. This is exactly what her character was like. Although I did not see the terrible postures that she had throughout any of the posing, which was unfortunate. I like the posing that she did in the show, and I just wish I would have seen a bit more of that, but that's okay. That's a nitpick. So as we pointed out in the previous photo, you see that boot there, how it's sort of stabbed into the cloth-like material versus when we go here, it looks the same, right? So I genuinely feel like this will be sculpted. I'm not upset at it. I mean, it would have allowed for more range of motion if they did something similar to the armor where both of these were soft goods. I'm just hoping it doesn't mess with the idea of her posing in a way that we would like her to pose and it just look off. But I mean, I feel like they would have thought of that. We'll have to just wait and see on that front. Her cloak again looks incredible. It reminds me of, the bottom part here reminds me of the Mandalorian with the way they chose to cut it, but the material looks similar to the Jedi robes. Yeah, they did a phenomenal job again on the portrait design. You can see parts of where it looked like the actor, but is that accurate, I wonder? There's a little blotch there on her eye. Even if it isn't, it's interesting that they did that. I'm not upset at it. It would be interesting though if she does have that. That's extreme attention to detail if that's the case. The photo we pointed out earlier for a comparison, I do like the hands. Those look nice. The sculpting on those look pretty good. Brand new hilt design as well, similar to Baylan. A bit of a tighter shot. Yeah, the paint application looks incredible too. Wow, that subtle flush here in the midsection of the cheek. Man, that's some art. I could never do that. That looks really good. I also wonder if she's suffering from that stiff neck syndrome that Baylan Skoll have on his figure. I would like to tuck that a bit more. Again, her posture in the show was so bad that I want to be able to replicate that. I like it, so I'm hoping they're not gonna stick us with that stiff neck. Another thing I would like to know is if we're gonna have butterfly joints here in the shoulder. Again, I hope that they do that simply because of how bad her posture was, and I'm not seeing that utilized here in the imagery, especially here. You could have tucked that a little bit more, brought that forward a little bit for her to select that for the and they just chose not to. The eyes are posed in a very weird way. That doesn't sell this image, unfortunately, but the droid is cool though. I like that. Very reminiscent of the Phantom Menace. Then here we have the detailed costume with the fabric selection. Now this actually, it's gotta be soft goods, right? Yeah, I mean, based on how the fabric look in the midsection, yeah, that's gotta be soft goods. Yeah, that's definitely soft goods. Okay. It's got a bit of a canvas-like material to it. It's almost hard to say that it is soft goods simply because of how it looks. But it's hard to say because the light isn't hitting it the same way as it was on Baylan. We have a little bit here on her belt, but it should hit the tunic the same way, and it's not. So that definitely looked like soft goods, apart from the threading, quote unquote, found throughout the tunic. I genuinely feel like that is plastic though, lining it. So as we make our way to the end card here, we have Shin Hati. Wow. Look at the back part of that too. That looks good. The exact same way as Baylan's too. That's really nice. Those are definitely sculpted. for sure. I'm not upset at it, but you can definitely tell that that's sculpted. Wow, they did a phenomenal job on this figure. It's just the portrait. It's not a major concern because you know who this is, but the problem is knowing who this is and who it's supposed to be are two different things. But even as you look at this photo over here on the left compared to the one on the right, you can tell that there was a different focal length used for the photos, and you can tell based on her face appear a bit smaller here and it looks full here. So now it's hard to say. I don't know which is which. You can definitely see it. It's absolutely apparent. But down here, this looks like a genuine person. That does not look like a figure at all right here. Beautiful, beautiful work. Now we have the separate rolling eyes. Phenomenal. We have the outfit, the LED lightsaber, brand new sculpt for that as well. A brand new droid, the holo projector without a hologram. I think that's a first actually. We have the base, which is unfortunate that it's, again, it's just that sort of standard look. Would have liked something similar to what we received with Ahsoka because she also fought in that area as well. But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. Now, they pointed out fists, and these don't look like fists, but they did point out on Sideshow, where is it? One pair of fists, one pair of lightsaber holding hands, and 3 gesturing hands. 1, 2, 3. These are definitely gestures. One pair of fists. Are these supposed to be neutral gestures? Ah, she doesn't have neutral gestures. Interesting. Okay, that is interesting. I'm not mad at it though, because those look neutral for her character, but that's interesting that they don't have the fists displayed here. I'm hoping that they don't backtrack on that and say, oh, well, it wasn't in the imagery, but it was in the words, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, the portrait designer is actually Viva Lai. He's the same one who do the clones, so if you have Wrecker, Rex, any of those guys, he's done it. He did the paint work for Cad Bane, and again, he did the portrait design here for Shin Hati, which looks good though. It looks good. Now, it's hard for me to really judge it simply because of the focal length used between both photos. Now it's tough to say. I don't know, man. I'm in a bit of a bind here trying to figure out which one it is, though. They did this with tech. That was my main issue with tech, figuring out if the portrait design looks right because of the focal length. I wish that they were a bit more consistent. But as I sit here and ponder and wait for the secret base photos to come up, 280. Ugh. You can't have Baylan without Shin, and you can't have Shin without Baylan. Unless, of course, you want Shin and Sabine in your display. I get that, but man, oh man. Both of those figures together, you're looking at over $700. But on her own, 280, I mean, everything is new. Brand new sculpt, brand new clothing, brand new everything for 280. You get a droid we haven't seen before. At 280, man. Times are getting rough, man. Times are hard. First world problems for sure. I'm going to go ahead and say 280 is worth it, but I personally would have enjoyed a discount. I did not receive a coupon for this, unfortunately. I did not have rewards. I would have liked a small reduction in that price, but that's so hard, man. 700 is brutal. But I can't take anything from them because everything is new. It's not like the Mandalorian. I'm going to go ahead and say 280 is worth it, y'all. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. This is Jonathan with Boston Collectors, and we'll catch you next time.